Welcome to Crypto 101 presented by 5paisa. The crypto ecosystem witnessed rapid growth in 2021, with sovereign nations eyeing this asset class closely and a huge rush of institutional money being deployed in this space. It's safe to say that crypto is here to stay. Will 2022 be equally exciting? To provide an interesting insight into the crypto space this year, we have Karthik Iyer.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Karthik, I want to start off with the predictions for 2022 since we're so early in the year. And I'm going to lay out a few topics starting with Bitcoin. And as you know, Bitcoin received a lot of love from various governments as well around the world, in particular El Salvador, that now accepts Bitcoin as legal tender. Do you think we're going to see a similar kind of adoption by more governments around the world? And do you think with inflation around the corner, we'll see Bitcoin being adopted further by governments on their treasury as a hedge against the US dollar?
In very complex times, Rahul, there are two paths to getting out of this chaos that we've created. So one is called austerity, where we don't spend money, we cut budgets, we have physical discipline. We tried that after the 2008 financial crisis, and a lot of people are out of jobs. There was riots in Greece, there were riots in Spain. A whole generation of people felt that they had no opportunity. So during this crisis, Corona crisis, we've taken a different approach. When I say we, I'm talking about the leader of the free world, the United States, which has realized that the only way to get out of this crisis is to print money. So 40% of all the American dollar that is in current circulation was printed in the last year.
Yes.
So the United States is close to 250 years old. I'm a strong believer in the dollar. I believe the dollar is a great global currency. But when you print 40% of the entire money circulation, of a particular currency in 1 year, it is going to cause massive inflation, not just in America, but it'll find its way into capital markets around the world. I mean, we are seeing the Indian capital market an all-time high. Some of the ADRs that we are seeing, American depository receipts of Indian companies, it's the money is coming into India massively, causing huge amounts of inflation in India, huge amounts of inflation in other countries. So if you want to, have a store of value, you cannot, believe in fiat currencies in the long term, because inflation will destroy value. And especially when you have inflation at very high rates like now, the purchasing power parity is going to dramatically go down for long periods of time. So gold was a store of value before Bitcoin, but gold, people believe, is still manipulated. There are a lot of papers that have been written about it. So Bitcoin has become a very strong store of value, and even Fortune 100 companies that we saw, companies in the S&P 500 like Tesla, we have big ETFs like ARK Innovation Fund. All of those people are getting into crypto. I mean, they believe that the only way to protect purchasing power parity over long periods of time is to hold money in crypto. I was pegged to the Deutsche Mark. So when you peg a currency, your local currency, to another currency, what you're doing is you're importing inflation. So when there is inflation in Germany, there'd be inflation in Denmark. So what's happening here is that when you peg your local currency, like the El Salvador currency, to the US dollar, when there's massive inflation in America, they'd be inflating, they would be importing inflation into their countries, because the purchasing power parity of that currency that you're pegging to is dramatically devaluing. So a lot of these countries, there are two different types of countries now, ones that have a peg and the other ones that have an actual currency crisis. Like, for example, the Turkish lira,
yes,
is dramatically devalued. So a lot of countries,
yes,
like, you're looking at Iran, you're looking at Venezuela, you're looking at El Salvador. So there are two different groups of countries now who are seriously looking at the US dollar, the Bitcoin as a serious alternative to the US dollar.
And you talk about store of value, and there's another currency that's promising to be a store of value in the future, and that's Ethereum. Ethereum saw a 10x jump in its price, or probably more, in 2021. And one of the problems plaguing Ethereum is the gas fees, as you know, on mainnet. What do you think is the future of Ethereum as it prices out the retail customer?
So Ethereum saw a 10x jump because the real value of these currencies is the ecosystem of people who participate in it. So the value of India is all these great companies, all these human beings consuming and producing. In the same way, if you have to look at these blockchain protocols as nation states, the real value is all these people contributing innovations on top of it. So the amount of applications that are now built on Ethereum has exploded 100x in just 1 year. So there's more demand for Ethereum. But the big problem, Rahul, is that what we are paying for Ethereum is the fees to run an application on the network. Like, for example, if you want to install a software in Windows, we pay money for the software, buy the software and we install it. The same way, if you want to run an application on this decentralized system, which is called Ethereum, we pay something called as the network fees.
Yes.
But in the same time, these tokens are traded as a security in an exchange. So when you trade it as a security, what you're paying for is the future value of that particular currency at that particular moment of time.
And because Ethereum network fees are so high, and it's literally priced out the retail customer who wants to conduct smaller transactions, we've seen the rise of layer 1 alts or layer 2 solutions as well. So layer 1 alts would be like your Solana and your Avalanche that broke out in 2021, and layer 2s would probably be Polygon. I know they hate calling themselves layer 2s, but Polygon, and there's also roll-ups like Arbitrum and Optimism that are now live. Do you think 2022 will be the year of the alts or the layer 2s? Because it's too expensive to transact on Ethereum mainnet, and a lot of crowd is now moving towards these other solutions that offer faster throughput and cheaper transaction fees. What are your thoughts?
A very good question, Rahul. I think you have some fantastic questions lined up today. So, as human beings, there are 3 things that we value. So, one is freedom. Second is wealth and scalability of our personal lives. And the third one is some level of security. We need some security for survival. In the same way, blockchains are measured in 3 different dimensions. One is the level of decentralization. Second is the amount of scalability, which is the number of transactions you can run on the network. And the third thing is the security in the network. So the first generation blockchains are fully decentralized. They're not very scalable. They're very slow. You cannot run many transactions. It takes a long time to run a transaction on Bitcoin network.
Right.
But they're very secure.
7 transactions per second as opposed to Visa's 65,000 odd transactions per second, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So if the whole world has to use the Bitcoin network, you cannot use traditional Bitcoin. So what, like Polygon and others, Lightning Network, what they've created is they've created a layer on top of traditional blockchains, which is called as a transaction layer. So what you do is you run your transactions on the network, and then you finally write those transactions into the blockchain, because the blockchain is an immutable ledger. Whatever you put in the blockchain cannot be deleted. And if you use mechanisms like proof of work, which requires massive amounts of power, computing power, to secure the network, they become very secure. So layer 2 solutions are the only way now to scale, blockchains with the trilemma. If you want decentralization, if you want scalability, if you want security, then you have to have these L2s. And I think I'm very proud that there are companies like Polygon, from India, that are dominating the space. The Indians are playing a very significant role in the progression of blockchains. I have conversations with somebody.
Yeah, if you had to pick, perhaps 2 or 3 alts, as I like to call them, alt layer 1s besides Ethereum, or perhaps even layer 2s, which ones would be your pick for 2022?
So I think layer 2 Polygon's going to be the dominant player. I'm convinced that Sandeep and team are innovating. They're not copycats, but they're doing original innovation. They're doing real computer science work. For L1, I think Ethereum is the dominant design. Like GSM and CDMA. GSM 1 because more and more people adopt that standard. So Ethereum is coming out with Ethereum 2.0, which is based on proof of stake. So it achieves scalability, it achieves security, it achieves consensus without spending too much money on the gas fees, and they're solving some of the issues that the existing layers had. So Ethereum is going to be the dominant design. But beyond Ethereum, I think Cardano, I feel, is a very, very powerful player, because the entire architecture is peer-reviewed. They use a scientific discipline of publishing papers, peer reviewing them. They work on very hard computer science problems which are related to the blockchain trilemma of decentralization, scalability, and security. And the third one, of course, is Solana. I think Solana is backed by A16Z. They have a very strong team of founders. So I think these are going to be the three contenders.
Okay, moving on to NFTs. It's still hard for a lot of people to wrap their heads around people spending thousands or perhaps even millions of dollars on JPEGs. I know NFTs are culture, and now that movie stars and athletes are getting into it as well. Do you think NFTs will evolve into digital assets with utility? So like social tokens or fan tokens, where perhaps, let's say I could have access to box seats at a cricket game or a soccer game, or maybe I have a say in the color of the sports jersey for the next season for the team. Do you think it's going to move beyond just digital art into these interesting use cases as well?
So I was having a conversation with my father trying to explain NFTs to him. And he said, is the world going crazy? Why are people paying money for JPEGs? And to explain to him, I had this idea of Adi Shankara, where he said, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Brahmo Jivaina Para. So what Adi Shankara basically means is that Brahman is a supreme consciousness, and all of this reality, like money and culture, everything else, is collective fiction. So what is now happening in the world is that there's tremendous amounts of money that's being printed, and money is dramatically losing its value. So people are creating these collective fictions, which are digital art, collectibles. There are these football clubs that are using NFTs to raise money. So money is finding its way into new types of fictions. And these fictions are NFTs, gaming, metaverses. And imagine this, Rahul. I mean, if there are 8 billion people on the planet, everybody wants to own a car, everybody wants to own a house, everybody wants to own a private jet, we will destroy the world. So the best way is to live in these metaverses in virtual reality, where people can buy the house, people can buy the car, so they can create a Maya within a Maya, thereby saving the planet, which is why one of the biggest companies in the world, Facebook, rebranded itself as Meta.
Right.
That this is where the game is going. And NFTs will play a very important role.
Also, NFTs play a really important part in the play to earn gaming economy. We saw in 2021 during the pandemic, Axie Infinity, the rise of Axie Infinity, and how people in the Philippines really, took to the game, and they were actually earning money with the game. So is blockchain gaming the future now, where in-game assets can also be bought and sold on secondary marketplaces? If I've got a sword or a skin that I own that actually has value, and that's an NFT by itself, or if I'm a character in a particular game, I own that asset, which can then be traded with someone else, like someone like yourself, on another marketplace, like perhaps OpenSea.
Yeah, so this cousin of mine spends a lot of time gaming. And so in Axie Infinity, has something called as Love Potion, aptly named Love Potion. As you spend more time in the game, you earn more love potions. And these love potions are traded, which basically means as you earn by spending more and more time in the game, you earn these tokens, and these tokens have real value. They can be exchanged to US dollar. So there are huge villages in places like Philippines with low GDP per capita, where young people are going out and earning a living by spending the entire day's gaming. And there's a huge industry of people who are building game artifacts. Like, if you earn a new gun, you can basically lease the gun, lend the gun. You can create a DeFi, a decentralized finance product, out of the things that you are earning within the game. So there's a multi-trillion economy that is now coming in this metaverse.
Thank you so much, Karthik Iyer, for joining us, and hope to see you soon in person in 2022.
Thank you, Rahul. Happy New Year to you and to your audience.
Thank you so much.